You do the intro.
Oh, I'm doing the intro.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Drunken Housewife review, and this is
Sarah, the Drunken Housewife.
And I'm Ian, your host and husband, trying to keep her in line as she gets a little chatty when she drinks.
Yes. Today's beverage, of course, margarita.
Okay.
Yes.
And who we have with us today is screenwriter, scriptwriter, stand-up comedian, all-around good guy, Marc Sheffler.
Nice to be here. Thank you for
yeah, Marc, like we said, in a movie that I watched but have blanked from my system, the OG Last House on the Left, which I think it's only had one reboot.
Yes.
Redo. Okay. Yeah, the OG Last House on the Left, which, you know, I know you're a much nicer fellow than you played in the movie.
I am.
Yes. And yeah, like we said, writer, producer, actor, stand-up comedian, -- you've got a lot of hats that you wear in the entertainment industry.
It's pretty much the same thing, but it's just different versions of the same thing.
Okay. I know we've been kind of watching some of your stuff. And I know you wrote a lot of pilots for shows.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about like what got picked up, what didn't, what did you think should have gotten picked up, that sort of thing.
Mostly everything did not get picked up. One or two things did. It's a process. People don't understand. A lot of times it's the execution of a deal that's been in place for a while. A lot of times it's an executive and a creative person getting together and saying, hey, let's do this. And they just happen to be, one of them is a real writer and the other one is a studio or network executive. So they get to play at that level. A lot of it is casting, some of it is the quality of the script. I would hope I'm a much better writer now than I was when I faked my way into starting as a writer.
Oh, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I even faked my way into teaching television writing at a seriously major university for 5 years out here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After I was at Loyola Marymount's University School of Film and Television for 5 years.
That is a pretty major.
I never graduated college. I got there solely on professional expertise. So, fooled those guys for a few years. It's basically, it's what I learned on Last House was that I loved acting, but I wanted to be more of the storyteller than just a part of the story. So then I began. So you understand this. I began to acquire kind of different skills in different areas. So whatever I'm doing, I'm still telling the story. Like the series that I'm trying to get going right now. If I get it going, I'll probably start out as just the executive producer, which is the showrunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling a story, so I'm in charge of telling the story, and that's been my goal, to be the person in charge of telling the story.
Okay, well, give us a little bit, I don't know, like a synopsis or little overview of the series that you're trying to get going.
It's called Those 7 Years. And it's based on the 7 years of my life, from the time I was 14 until I was 21. When I was 14, I was in a movie theater in downtown Pittsburgh, where I grew up. One of these grand, ornate, kind of old-fashioned, once a live performance house converted into a motion picture place. Yeah. So you get the picture, right? And my father's cousin was the general manager for all of Stanley Warner Film theaters in the Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia triangle, right? He was in charge of like 30 or 40 theaters. And his office was at this particular theater called the Stanley in downtown Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And, we were like in that family bubble. So all the Stanley Warner theaters around, we could just go, and they knew who we were. We were Larry's cousins. And so anyway, so my dad was this real character, out of the box aluminum siding salesman guy, just kind of like the most atypical father for that time period that you could imagine. And he was kind of a Runyon-esque character at the same time. You know, he was just very outlandish and wore custom-made suits, silk suits, and drove a big Cadillac, and you know, just was a real character of a guy. So we were watching Jerry Lewis in The Nutty Professor, right as it first came out, right, 1963. I was 14. So we're in the theater, and the movie ends, and I was just blown away by it. You know, I said something to my dad like, Jerry Lewis is the funniest guy in the world. And then I mused a bit, and I started to think, wow, what must that be like to be in the movies, to be on that screen, to be an actor? You know, it kind of hit me there, even though I had some experience, I'll tell you in a second, with the Three Stooges. But my dad said to me, just casually, he said, you know, maybe you'll find out one day. You know, and I was like every other kid, oh, come on, you know, that's like the movies, like, come on. And my dad looked at me and he said, hey, he got very serious, which was kind of unusual for my dad. And he said, hey, somebody does that every day of the week. Why not you? And I was stumped. I had no answer. And I had no answer. I said, yeah, why not me? So he and I made this kind of, you know, at the time, a silly agreement, right? We shook hands and we said, tell you what, Dad, one of these days, I'm going to be in a movie that's going to be right on that screen. And my father said, and when that day comes, I'll be your biggest fan, and you and I will ride here in a limousine together. So 7 years later, after Roger Ebert wrote that extraordinary review of Last House and blew it up nationwide, the Hallmark and Sean Cunningham, those guys sent me to Pittsburgh to do some press for the opening of Last House in Pittsburgh. And as luck would have it, it was opening at the Stanley. And my dad and I did, in fact, ride there together in a limo. So the series, those 7 years, starts out in the pilot where my character makes that and his dad make that agreement to 7 years later when it actually happens. That's the beginning and end of the series. And the guts of it are the episodes and the journey, and is the journey that took me from the promise to the realization of the promise.
Okay, so
I like that.
Well, the series in and of itself, how many years in reality would you tell the 7 years?
7 seasons. I would
7 seasons. I saw it.
I want to do it in real time, and the great thing about this is that because it's based on truth. As the story progresses, as the narrative moves forward, the visuals change because each series of episodes takes place in a different place. Like when I was in the 10th grade, 9th grade, end of the 9th grade, I got thrown out of public high school, and because I was just, you know, too funny, and the teachers were complaining that I was able to take control of the class at will, and they just couldn't have that, you know. So what happened was my dad put me, so that the first season takes place in that high school leading up to getting thrown out. And the next season takes place in a private day high school that my father put me in with a bunch of other kids whose parents had some disposable income and were not able to fit within the boundaries of normal public high school behavior.
Gotcha.
And then the next episode takes place in a high school. Well, one season takes place in like in summer school when I was the only white kid in an all black high school.
Okay.
And it just keeps moving. One series takes place in Atlantic City. When I went away.
Sorry about that.
When I went home to, but if I start sneezing, when I went to Atlantic City and got a job as a short order cook for the summer, and then it moves forward through my college days at LSU, and then to New York, then to the Catskill Mountains, and then to Last House. So that's the body of it. It's
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I say no need to recast, because the actor that would play essentially you would grow.
Yeah.
You know, and all that.
That's the way I want to do it. It's
I like the idea. I do, but I have no pull in Hollywood. Otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it.
My producing partner is a guy named Gary Hart, who was the president of Paramount Network Television for like 13 years, and then at Universal before that.
Oh, wow.
And he and I have been friends since my Charles in Charge days. So that's going back like 40 some years. And we've stayed really, really close friends. And the whole idea of this was mine, but because he saw it, we were having a conversation talking about our parents and growing up, and he grew up in Queens, and I was telling him some stories from my childhood, and I told him the story of my dad and me that ended up being like the opening piece of the pilot. And at the end of the story, he said, if you don't write that as a series, if you don't write a pilot about this, I will never talk to you again. and he said, and I really love talking to you. I will never do it again. So he's guided, from a studio executive point of view, has been guiding me through the development of the series and the script and everything. And he's just like one of my dearest friends. And I'm hoping we're actually approaching an actor right now to play my father. It's the pivotal role.
Okay.
So
one
of those fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, how much interest is that?
I know for a fact that if I can get a name actor, one of the guys that people were after, but we're after somebody very specific right now. If I could get that, then I'd get it going in 2 seconds, and then it'd be a completely different.
I volunteer to play an extra in the background somewhere. Seriously.
Let me get it going.
Call me.
Let me cross the major hurdle. And I had a podcast. It's funny you say that. I had a podcast a couple of weeks ago from a guy in Pittsburgh, actually. And he said the same thing. He said, well, I want to get a part in that as soon as I said, yeah, no problem. And he said, really? I said, let me tell you something. That's such an easy thing to do. If my show is working, is happening, and I'm the executive producer, it's like a note to my assistant. That's how insignificant, like from my side of it. I know it matters much larger than that, but for the person who's getting it done, if it's the right person, it's really like a no-brainer to do. It's like not even.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Well, the thing is that my day job at the moment is a flight attendant, and we can just fly right wherever you need us to be. We'll be in the background just waving and
let me get it. Let me cross the big hurdle first.
Yeah, let him get across the bridge first, and then he'll pay our toll the way.
So I mean, have other people shown interest as far as like studios, networks, blah blah blah? I mean, how far are you on?
Brand new. It's brand. I just finished it. I just finished the pilot. Got it where we liked it. It's there's an old saying in Hollywood that I learned a long time ago, and that is nothing good is ever written. It's always rewritten, and that's the truth of it. First drafts are first drafts, and then you go to work on it. Once you have a first draft done, then you can go to work on it. So we've been, hacking away. I didn't even have a title. For it. It was the untitled Pittsburgh pilot until maybe a month ago. And what happened was I was telling someone the story, and I kept repeating the term those 7 years. It's during those 7 years and in those 7 years. And when I hung the phone call up, I said to myself, that's the title, those 7 years. That's what the title is. And I ran it by Gary.
Exactly.
He said, perfect and poetic, but let's see, that's it. So
sometimes ideas just hit you.
It's that simple.
For 2 years or so, I didn't have I had no idea what I was going to call it. I had a bunch of things, and they were tacky and shitty, and so I left it alone until one just flew right in front of me.
Yeah, when it's right, it's right. Yeah.
I was aware enough to pick it up.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend that is a writer, novelist, not, screenwriter, but she does an interesting thing with all of her drafts. She saves them all, and then she cuts them into little pieces because she's also an artist, and works them into her artwork. Like it could be the waves of the ocean, and you see like words.
Oh, it's interesting. That's
her drafts, and I've always, Because yeah, she's like, I had so many drafts of so many things that I had written. I had no idea what to do with them. And she's like, one day she just started cutting one of them up, and then she was like, ding, light bulb.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just
I think it's what people have called a creative epiphany, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
When shit happens.
Yeah.
So,
You never know. You never know.
no, you don't. You don't ever know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But Last House on the Left, though, was a rewrite, wasn't it? You guys.
Yes. I thought you meant what Westwood. Yes.
No, what eventually got filmed but it started out a completely different idea. And then
we all got cast in it, doing little audition scenes. And then we got a full version of the script, and none of us wanted to do what was in that thing originally. So we said, no, but again, we got together as a team, the cast, and said to Wes, look, the bones of this are terrific. You know what you really want to do. But you got to get rid of this weird stuff. And he laughed, and to his absolute creative credit, he delivered a much better and much more commercial and draft that became what it became. I don't think it would have become what it became had the original script been.
I could see that.
Yeah, because I was reading a little bit. Like I said, excellent movie, but it's one of those movies that I love. I love horror and thrillers and the whole nine. But when a movie, like when I have to when I'm rewatching, I have to turn it off, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember everything about this movie now. Yeah, it's like I think we were like 10 minutes into it, and I'm like, it all came back.
Well, it can be a tough movie to watch.
How old were you guys when you first saw it?
Okay, it came out in 72. So I probably watched it when I was in high school in like 80, 81. So that would have put me at like 16.
Ian, 17. How about you?
Okay, to be completely honest.
50.
52.
52.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'd always heard of it, and I'd seen like other kinds of the same kind of like period pieces like that. And I was a big fan of low budget horror, but for some reason that was one of the ones that escaped me. Like when did I see Hellraiser?
We were married 15 years
before I even saw Hellraiser.
I found out you hadn't seen Hellraiser, and I'm like,
it's one of those movies like, oh yeah, I need to see that. I never had a chance to. But watching it now and knowing the period that it came out of, it was very raw, very, very visceral. If I would have saw that when I was 18, I probably would have hit me a lot harder than it is me.
Yeah, I think that's why it bothered me so much. I mean, like I said, Hellraiser didn't bother me, and let's talk about that. But Last House on the Left to me could happen.
Do you remember? Okay, hang on to that point.
Yeah.
Do you remember the circumstances around why you saw it or how you saw it the first time?
The first time I saw it was a slumber party. With a double billing with Chainsaw Massacre.
Got it.
Chainsaw Massacre didn't bother me.
Right.
But like I said, Last House on the Left, I was like, I can see this truly.
Yeah, that made it a little more scary.
And I think that
was the thing. You see, one of the interesting facts that I've learned from going to horror film conventions that have really kind of shifted my point of view about the movie, because I've had, like a love, hate, love, not just like there were times when I paid no attention to it, like it was something in my past, and this was kind of early on, right? Like after the big explosion, and kind of like in the middle part of it, when I was really beginning my TV writing career. I really didn't focus on anything having to do with Last House, and so. But then David Hess got me into doing horror film conventions, and I didn't understand the impact, the depth of the impact that it had on people until I started to see families and people, mothers and fathers with their daughters, especially, who would come to my table for an autograph, and I began to hear the reason why that teenage girls would come up and get an autograph, and they would say, my parents made me watch this movie. My dad made me watch this movie. They wanted me to know what could happen if I made a wrong decision in life.
Yeah.
And I began to see a pattern emerging that what Last House became ultimately was exactly what The Virgin Spring was intended to be. And that was a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
It was something to show people. And what you were saying about it could have really happened, that's sort of by design with Wes. He wanted to create something that didn't as much look like a movie as it looked like you opened a window and we're looking at a horrible crime taking place through the safety of the fact that you're inside.
Yeah.
But you could see it, and that was his intent. As nascent a director as he was, he still had a great sense of story and a way, an idea of how to tell a story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that basically, I mean, especially like later ones, like I Spit on Your Grave, the original one from '78. It had kind of that visceralness of the realness of how it could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why, like I said, Hellraiser, seriously, I don't think I'm going to get a box that's going to summon demons that'll peel my flesh.
There you go.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like Last House on Left, Cujo,
you
the
could
rabid dog,
and end up,
stuff that you can actually see,
Yeah.
open your door and there it is. It's happening.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think that's true. It just really feeds on a fear, especially, I mean, as a teenage girl, I didn't know anything about anything. And I lived in a small town the size of a postage stamp.
And that's why it keeps going.
Yeah. And I think that's it is a cautionary tale. So
that's the reason why it's 50 some years later and people still watch it.
Yeah.
For the first time.
And the thing is, there are some reboots that are good and some that are not, and this one was not good. I think it really lacked what the original was trying to get over and it just was more stylized. It had a quote happier ending per se.
The thing, I actually had to write I got hired by a magazine in England, a horror film magazine online, to write a compare and contrast, right, between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tore it to shreds, but in a kind of a Hollywood way,
Okay.
From the point of view, like my theory on reboots is, if the first one didn't exist, could the second one stand on its own 2 feet?
Oh yeah, that's a fair comparison.
And I don't believe this one passed that test. If it did, fine, right? But one of the things that made Last House work was that none of us were recognizable actors, that it was shot like a semi-documentary, and that it was shot in such a way that the lack of production value added to the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
This other thing was so overproduced that it took away from the tension of the story.
I agree.
Yeah.
You were always aware you were watching a movie, as opposed to our version, which was, holy fuck, where am I? What's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
Especially with the original, with the grade of the actual film, Troma used the same kind of low grade for that look, for that feel. Yeah.
That documentary stock, that single sprocket, Super 16, then blown to a 35 negative that added a little grain to it.
Exactly.
That was before the days of digitally enlarging stuff.
Oh yeah.
They literally had to blow up the print in the lab. So, that's what happens. People don't understand that you can throw too much money at something and ruin it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so behind, the creative process behind, rather than the actual physical medium of it.
Right.
If you had the creativity behind VHS movie but still pull it off and have it look great, you can do that. It's just the process behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can throw glitter on a pig, but it's still going to be a pig.
Yeah.
Still going to be a pig.
Yeah. So
Well, kind of going from that to fast forwarding to the latest one. Forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but Girls Gone Dead.
Yeah, see, Girls Gone Dead, 30 Days to Die. It's the same movie, depending on who the distributor was.
Mhm.
Yeah, that happened. A friend of mine came to me and said, "Listen, I'm doing this very low budget horror film," and I said, "Geez, I've never had that experience before."
sounds familiar.
Completely new. Yeah.
He said, "I need some kind of top name, something. Will you do a part in it and help me make it?" And
Okay.
yeah, I said, sure, so we went off to Lake Arrowhead in the mountains around LA and spent, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. And it was fun. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed
it's like
it.
what?
It was
Comedy,
fun. Yeah.
comedy horror.
It was a horror with comedic elements to it.
yeah,
But
but it is, I've seen, as far as B movie slasher movies go, it actually had a lot more to it than
quality
a lot of
kills.
quality
Kills.
very creative kills to it.
I mean, if you're going to be killing people,
Oh yeah,
get creative with it.
and there's some great
know?
like one-liners, like when the one chubby guy says, "Oh, less teeth," after she had just been nailed with it being the religious
Right.
weapon. And then you're like, oh, is it the ex-boyfriend? And then you find out the ex-boyfriend and the mom are both insane. And it's just, and then you had Lawler in it, with the wrestling moves and stuff. And that was, it was fun. And anything you put Ron Jeremy in, 20% funny.
I don't think we're talking about the same movie. Ron Jeremy wasn't in our movie.
No, Ron Jeremy went.
You
I
sure?
yeah, 100%.
A guy that looked like him.
Well, this one was called Girls Gone Dead, and it had
That's
Ron
another.
Jeremy.
There were two movies called Girls Gone Dead.
Oh my God, I saw the wrong one.
Okay.
Oopsie.
That's fun. Well, that one was funny too.
That one's funny too, but so is yours. So
Let's just to keep the record straight.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a movie with Ron Jeremy. I wouldn't.
But
know.
I guess that was not Marc Sheffler. I do apologize, sir.
That's okay.
We'll just edit that part out.
It's the age of the internet. It's like you can find all these different versions.
Because we were trying to look up Girls Gone Dead and didn't know until we had talked to you that it had the two different titles.
30 Days to Die, I think, is the one that the wider video release of it was under.
Yeah. So
can you tell us about 30 Days to Die then, or Girls Gone Dead?
Whichever.
The one that you were in.
Okay.
One that you were in. On that.
Because the one we watched had great kills.
Building on the fact that a friend of mine, the story I told you about a friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
That we went up to Lake Arrowhead and shot it. It's about a girl whose parents send her away to a rehab place, and turns out that the rehab place is visited by a serial killer, and how she navigates that horrible world and then escapes. So
okay, yeah, we saw the trailer for that.
Saw the trailer for that.
Yeah.
So
too much searching led us down a rabbit hole.
But that one looked really good too. It's just that we didn't
get to watch it yet.
So
it's on our list.
I do apologize.
Yeah, but you did a lot of writing for lots of shows that people would know. Charles in Charge,
Who's the Boss, Love Boat, Sanford. Specials.
Now, how difficult is it as somebody that isn't in the writer's room or really associated with a show all the time to write a one-off episode?
How difficult is it to get the first one?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in a show, associated with the show all the time, to know
if you're not
all of the characters and
most of the shows,
all of that.
Let's just isolate on Charles in Charge.
Okay.
The way I got the first episode, at the time, I was partners with Lee Aronson, writing partners with Lee Aronson, who became the co-creator of 2.5 Men with Chuck Lorre. So Lee, we were kind of like a new partnership, and we had both had some experience by that time. This was, I think, in 1986 or 85 rather. So Lee knew Bill Greer, who was the executive producer of Charles in Charge. And I knew Al Burton, who was the managing executive producer of the show from his Norman Lear days. So Lee called Bill Greer and told him that he and I were writing together and we want to come in and pitch some episodes. So what Bill did was he sent over a couple of produced Charles in Charge episodes so that we could take a look and see the structure, because every show has their scripts are fundamentally the same, but they all have their little idiosyncrasies. So it's always good if you're writing an episode of a show to make it look not like the best show they've ever done, not like the worst show they've ever done, but right in the middle. That's where you want to be starting out. So what happened was Bill, they set an appointment with Lee for us to go to Universal and pitch some episode springboards, like little one-liner notes like you see in TV Guide.
Sure.
So, and on that show in particular, every episode was pitched to Al Burton. And Bill gave us some very solid advice. He said, Al won't listen to any episode pitch that doesn't begin with Charles. So you had to say Charles had to be the first word of every pitch.
Gotcha.
Right? There's no wiggle room in that.
Yeah.
If you didn't say Charles when you were pitching Al Burton's, he wouldn't listen to it. It just shut off.
Because
that was his vision, right?
Sure.
So we pitched 4 or 5 spring. You always don't want to pitch to more than necessary. You want to pitch about 5 springboards so that it gives them something to say yes to, enough variety to say yes to. So they bought one, right? So we wrote it and we made it look exactly like the episode that Bill Greer showed us. They made it. Then they gave us another one. They asked us if we would do. Then they asked us if we would do another one.
Okay.
And we did another one, and it was after we turned the first draft in of the second episode that they made the offer to us to go on staff at the show.
Awesome. Okay.
And so if I was advising anyone who was trying to do that, the first thing I would say is get a hold of a copy of a script of that show that's been produced.
Yes.
And take a good look at it and see if you understand the characters and you understand how that show works. And then, just write a spec script, on outline it first. All writing deals in television are always made story with option for teleplay. So you have to write the story first in narrative. And it's just really, it's like interior, wherever you are, what the time you are. Then you write down like in narrative sentences what happens.
Yes.
Known as a step outline or a beat outline.
Yes.
And then you write the script. And if you write the beat outline correctly, writing the script is just easy. It just happens because everything's already there. You're just filling in the blanks and then making it better. And see if at the end when you're finished, compare it to the script that you have of that particular show and see if they're alike. See if they, one's like the other one. If it's, understand what they have done. You can always get a list. If you're really doing this for real, the show will give you an outline list of what they've already done so that you're not, stepping on territory they've been before. But that's the way to do it. And you just got to keep at it. I'm almost the wrong person to ask about a lot of this stuff. No, because I have been extraordinarily lucky. Like I sold the first script I ever wrote, and that's what moved me to California. And I landed here. I had William Morris as an agent and a manager and a place to live and money in the bank and a car and an office. So my road to LA originally was on a magic carpet, and I know that. It just was. And but this is the advice I give people, to ground yourself in reality and understand that it's extraordinarily difficult. But at the same time, like my father said to me, people do it every day. Why not?
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Yeah, why not you?
I totally agree with that.
I know there is a favorite that this guy has of yours, that he's been dying to ask you questions about.
Something I actually did.
Something you actually did. I feel I just want to hide now and die.
Okay. You can hang out for those. That's fine.
No, I mean, I'm totally embarrassed. We talked about a movie he didn't even, let me just drink more margarita. That'll make me feel better.
That's okay. No, Dubidio.
Oh yeah, that one
that one you actually did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and go ahead and tell us how you came about working on that, and then I can kind of get into my thoughts on it.
Okay, so the video came to me like this. Alan Sachs, who is a prolific television producer, and has been for decades, and I were then and are still very close friends. So, and by the time we did the video, Alan and I had already worked on, 2 or 3 projects together, and, found that there was a synergy between us.
Sure.
So I get a call from him one day, and he said, Benny, which is his nickname for me. And because we wrote a pilot once for NBC, and we wrote it as the Romero brothers, Benny, Angel, and I forget what Stanley's name was, Stanley Myron Hannibal. He had a name. So but Alan and I were Benny and Angel. So he says, Benny, I got a project, a film. And I said, yeah. He said, but it's a little weird. And he tells me the story that somebody making a film with Joan Jett had shot like 2/3 of a film, ran out of money, and just abandoned it at the post-production house, right? At Gomillion Productions, which was a post house in LA. And Alan told me that Ted Gomillion, the guy who owned the post-production studio, told Alan that if he could come up with a way for short money, right, to finish it, Ted would then supply all the post facilities and post the film to answer print and try to, recoup his investment. So Alan took a look at it and said to Ted Gomillion, I know just who to call. So Alan called me and he said, we got to go on a run after you watch this. So he took me over to this place and I watched it, and he said, what do you think? I said, it's really fucking weird, Alan. It's like really weird. He said, yeah, I know. What can we do with it? So I don't know. I said, give me a couple of days. So I thought, then I came up with an idea, and I said to Alan, let's go on a run, and I'll tell you what my idea is. So we went on this Alan and I were both very, avid long distance runners. So we went on like a 15-mile run from West Hollywood into Beverly Hills and back. And I told him, I said, here's what we got to do. We have to take this footage that's written, shot the way it is, and we got to open it up and write a skeleton story, a spine that justifies these little pieces. And he said, I'm listening. And I said, what we do is we just kind of pander to the truth. We amplify it. We get a guy, we create a character who is a filmmaker who's raised money from the shady sources, and he has to finish the film or deliver the film by a certain date, or they're gonna, take their revenge on him. And Alan said, I like it. I said, yeah, that way we can go out of the box with all the already archived film footage, and then the new stuff that we'll shoot, all we'll have to do will create his environment, which will be fundamentally an editing room only with his manic personality.
Yes.
Alan just said, Benny, that's fucking brilliant. That's just exactly that's the only way to do it. And I said, yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense to me. So Alan took that idea to Ted Gomillion, and he said, yeah, sounds great. Go, let's do it. So I wrote this, with Alan, we wrote the skeleton, and got lucky enough to get Ray Sharkey to play DeVito. And yes, we shot it. And there you go. And Alan pulled all of those freaky people in that part of his punk rock world.
Sure.
Okay.
And that's how it happened.
Oh yeah. It's well, the thing about it that I love the most is where it kind of encapsulated a passionate creative person's process.
Yeah.
It really did, because I know the way I am on some of the stuff that I do. I have like all those things going on at the same time. It's almost like he has ADD, but it all contributes to that manic creative process for his vision.
Yes.
And so I thought that it encapsulated that pretty well, especially with, you kind of showed where you're talking, it's very self-reflexive. Breaking the fourth wall, saying, "Hey, I'm going to get money," and just do Polaroid stills, and then show stills of the action.
Yep.
As you're talking about it, you have people talking over the process of making the film at the film's debut, and it even reminisces. I mean, it's kind of foreshadowing to DVD commentary.
Yeah.
In that respect, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like with I want to say. The sequel to Rocky Horror,
shock treatment,
the shock treatment, where it's is kind of explaining reality TV before reality TV.
Yeah,
it's kind of the predecessor to that, and it's very postmodern. And the thing that with Alan, with the punk rock, with the idea, is very punk rock in and of itself, especially with showing the images of some people who are kind of weird about, but this guy's passionate about. It's like, I'm going to show you the crazy, weird stuff that I know about and is in my head, and you do it at the same time. So it's very cool. And I think it's funny too, that it's using the punk rock footage of Joan Jett before she became commercial with the Blackhearts, with the Runaways. So I thought that was very interesting. It's her being more raw than she would be for the general public with the Blackhearts.
We never met Joan Jett. She was never part of what we did. It was, we just archived and cut the footage the way we wanted it. So, which was kind of like the fun of it, you know, to take that 2/3 of the film or 3/4 of the film, whatever it was, and then be able to make something that's sort of coherent out of it.
Oh yeah. What, has anybody ever talked to her about it? I mean, since she had like shot that for a different project, and then it became what you.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what her thoughts.
It's like, okay, it's like it started out here where you thought it was gonna be totally this thing, and then it totally becomes something else because basically because of money restraints, and just for it to go into that weird transformation. I wonder what she thinks about that.
But it shows you can get creative when you have to. I mean, when you've got $5, what do what can you turn out?
Yeah, you really can if you look at it. Like, I never looked at it as a limitation. I looked at it as an opportunity. That's how I always look at stuff. Whatever it is, I'll take a look at it and see if and that's a thing I got from my father. The kind of the knee-jerk or reflexive ability to not just say something is nothing without exploring what it could be if I looked at it from another way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it totally, even watching it and not knowing all the background to it, you kind of get that sense of it as well. So that came across very well.
The one thing I knew for sure, that the wrong thing to do would be try to finish that film as it was, right?
Oh yeah, I think so too.
That would have been 100% wrong. I knew that instinctively. So then I just decided, when I came up with the idea of how to fix it, I knew that it had to I had to separate the two realities and at the same time combine them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that came over very well. As far as it matched up very well, especially with the punk rock aesthetic. It really.
That's all Alan.
Yes.
That's his.
Yeah.
That's his thing. So
the movie has a new fan, obviously.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, just kind of shown what was going through my head all the time. as far as like all these ideas coming in the process
Yeah.
of putting it all out and being that passionate, bringing people in, and then also dealing with people who aren't always there, like the character with the cough syrup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then trying to keep him online and keeping things going, and then still trying to keep everybody.
I don't know how he
ready to
deals
do
with
it.
people who are, drinking stuff and not paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And to his extraordinary credit, Ray Sharkey was just terrific. He was.
Yeah, he embodied that energy very well.
Anything the man does, it seems he gives you 100%.
Oh yeah, Ray Sharkey, very
yeah.
inviting.
Yeah. So
Okay, well, we ready to.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to
up?
think if there's anything else other than apologizing for talking about the wrong movie. Again, we're going to shoot ourselves later.
Notice how upset I am.
I'm going to blame the alcohol.
Well, I mean, from the trailer looked really good. It looked really interesting.
And then we watched a completely different movie.
And then we confused the two. There you go.
Blame Christmas, blame alcohol, blame
There you
whatever.
go. Why not?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Again, thank you so much for
thank you.
coming on.
You guys have a good holiday season. Thanks again for having me on.
You too.
And,
have a great holiday season.
Before we go ahead and do a shout out to the other podcasts and interviewers who have focused on your stand-up, because we've focused on your movies. I want people to know where they can go for your stand-up.
You could watch, the improv one that I sent you, like Eddie's Bar at the Improv.
Eddie's Bar at the Improv.
Okay.
I don't know. Just Google search me.
Just Google search you.
Google search Marc Sheffler comedy, stand-up comedy. There
yes. And make sure you spell it right and get the right stuff.
Because believe me, we wanted to
putting up on my business. I've never had business cards in my life, but I'm thinking of getting them, and all it's going to say is Marc Sheffler, and then underneath I can be Googled. That's it.
There you go. Anymore, really. Although if you Google me, I'm a radio personality in the UK.
There you go.
So there's that. And he's a baseball player. So
that's right. There was a baseball player with that name.
Yeah.
It's weird. I went on IMDb and there's like 10 Ian Kennedys that do different things. So I guess I go by Ian K. Kennedy now, just to keep everybody straight on what I do.
Yeah. So there you go. Make sure you have the right person. Anyway,
all right. Thank
you so much for being on Drunken Housewife Reviews. Have a great holiday season.
You as well.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Start recording. There you go.
Hey guys, that was Marc Sheffler, extraordinary comedian and actor and writer, producer.
/ many hats. Amazing guy that we obviously needed to get the right movie. Well, I'm feeling so bad about that right now, but
I mean, with the things with different distributors in different countries and stuff, people get all these different titles for things that aren't like mainstream movies. So there you go.
Yeah, but yeah, amazing guy. Seriously, sitcoms that you loved and adored growing up. $5 says he wrote an episode for him. Producer for the series.
Yep.
Harry and the Hendersons. I mean, we can't list everything the man's done. We're so glad that he was on with us today.
Yep. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.